All right, like I was saying, I like Carlos Hyde with this new situation there. Amir Abdullah, not a big fan of him. There's a chance he could be good. He's always hurt. Not really sure about that Detroit running game there. And then C.J. Anderson, I actually like C.J. Anderson. I think he's the number one guy there in Detroit, in Denver. I think he'll get plenty of carries as long as he can stay healthy. I like his situation. I think he'll be a solid producer there. Derrick Henry, really unless something happens to DeMarco Murray, his value is kind of tied to that. If something does happen, Derrick Henry's probably a top 10 running back, so it's definitely worth a good pick there. And then Alvin Kamara, he looked great in preseason, but he's having to compete with Peterson and Ingram. Unless something happens to both those guys, he's definitely not going to really see the field too much, in my opinion. At receiver here, he's got Jordy Nelson, Terrell Pryor, Martavis Bryant, Devontae Parker, Dante Moncrief, and Kevin White. Obviously, Jordy Nelson is a stud. Top 5 receiver, almost guaranteed. Number 1 receiver in fantasy last year. Obviously, when you got Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball and you're his number 1 target, you're obviously going to be pretty good there. Terrell Pryor on the new team of the Redskins. He's getting a lot of hype this preseason. We'll see if he can produce. He's definitely in a better situation than he was previously. So we'll see how things go there. Martavis Bryant just came off his suspension today, was reinstated by NFL. He's the number 2 target. He makes big plays. He produces well. He's got great offense around him. So probably a very good pick there. Devontae Parker on Miami. I think there's a chance he could be the number 1 receiver on that team this year. I think Jay Cutler likes throwing him the ball. He likes to go deep. I think I expect some big things out of him this year, possibly. Dante Moncrief. I like him as a player, but if Andrew Luck's not out there, he's worthless, in my opinion. I mean, Tolzien's not going to give him the ball, so he needs Luck to be out there to have any kind of effectiveness in fantasy. Kevin White, you don't really know. I mean, Bears offense could be not very good, in my opinion. I don't know how much he's going to get the ball, how good of a player he is, so we'll see there. Tight end, he's got Gronk. Obviously, we all know Gronk is great when he's healthy. If he's not healthy, he's not going to do you very good. So if he can stay healthy, that's an amazing pick there. And then to wrap it up here, he's got Steelers defense. I'm not a fan of the Steelers defense. They did improve with the signing of Joe Hayden the other day. But we'll see how well that helps them out there. And then Dan Bailey at kicker. I like Dan Bailey at kicker. I think Dallas offense would be pretty decent this year, so he should definitely be able to get you some points there. At Team 10, I have Michael. Michael's team consists of Cam Newton at quarterback and Matthew Stafford at quarterback. I'm not a big fan of either one of those guys. Obviously, Stafford got his huge contract here recently. We'll see how well he does. And then, obviously, Cam's the local guy for a lot of us here. Me and Garrett are very close to Charlotte, so I'm not a big fan of him. I don't think he's that good. So we'll see. I mean, I obviously know the Panthers don't want him running the ball as much, which I think takes away from his value as a fantasy quarterback. So we'll see how that works out there. He's got DeMarco Murray, Marshawn Lynch, Joe Mixon, James White, and Rex Burkhead, and Charles Sims at running back. DeMarco Murray, I mean, we'll see how well he can do this year. Hopefully he can stay healthy. He's also going to be competing with Derrick Henry for playing time back and forth. So we'll see how that committee works out there. Marshawn Lynch comes back to the NFL this year. He's on Oakland. A lot of people are big on him. I'm not. I mean, leaving football for an entire year is a big deal. We'll see how well he can do. He's an older guy. He'll find the end zone here and there, but outside of that, I'm not sure, how many points and how productive he's actually going to be able to be. Joe Mixon is likely to eventually become the number 1 guy in Cincinnati. He's obviously a rookie out of Oklahoma. He's competing with Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard. I like Mixon. You hope he can win that job there and be as productive as people think. James White, Rex Burkhead. Once again, you got 2 guys in that New England backfield. It's going to be so difficult to know which one to play from week to week. It's just a situation I would like to stay away from. Charles Sims, Obviously I know Doug Martin's suspended, and so Simmons is going to get some playing time early on in the season with Jacquizz Rodgers, but I'm not a fan of that pick. I don't really think that's going to be too beneficial there. Receiver, Emmanuel Sanders, Adam Thielen, Mike Evans. And it looks like that's it for receivers. Obviously, Mike Evans is a stud. I like the Mike Evans pick a lot. Emmanuel Sanders is also a very good receiver. If he had a better quarterback, I would like him a lot more. So I like that pick there. Same with Adam Thielen. I mean, not the best quarterback situation there, but I like him as a receiver. I think he's a solid receiver there. At tight end, he's got Jason Witten here. He's very mediocre. He's just middle of the pack. He doesn't have a high floor. I don't really, he has not a high ceiling. His floor is kind of whatever. I mean, he's good for probably 6 points a week. That's about it. I mean, you're not going to get anything crazy out of him. And then to wrap it up here, he's got two defenses, Seahawks and Bills, and then Matt Prater as his kicker. I like the Seahawks defense a lot. Bills defense, it's whatever. Prater at kicker, whatever. I mean, I don't know how great the Detroit offense is going to be, so we'll see how that works out there. Last two teams I have here, I have George at team 11, and then I have David at team 5. So we'll try to quickly go through these last two here to wrap this up. George has Matt Ryan at quarterback and Eli Manning. Obviously, Matt Ryan's very good quarterback. We'll see if he can produce like he did last year. I think there will be some regression there, but I still think he'll be a very solid option. Eli Manning, his offensive line is garbage. He has no running game. It's just tough there. I think he's definitely worth a spot, but we'll see if he can do anything. Running back here, he's got Frank Gore, Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, Darren Sproles, and Jeremy Hill. Frank Gore, he's kind of like Jason Witten, man. He's oldie but goodie. He's good for probably 10 points a week. That's it. I mean, he's not going to do anything crazy for you. Jonathan Stewart's competing with McCaffrey. I believe he'll get some touchdowns. He'll get some work, but I just don't know how much. D'Angelo Williams obviously isn't on a team, so that was a very odd pick there. I'm not really sure what happened there, but absolutely worth nothing at this point. Darren Sproles, he's clearly just a pass-catching down back. Nothing more. Can't really play him in my opinion, so not a very good pick there. And then Jeremy Hill, currently he is the starter in Cincinnati. I personally like Hill. He does seem to find the end zone every single season, but he is competing with Mixon and Bernard, and ultimately I think Mixon will take over that job, which will render Hill kind of useless at that point. Receiver here, he's got Odell Beckham, Doug Baldwin, Ted Ginn Jr., and Kenny Stills. Obviously, Beckham is a stud. He's a great receiver. Hopefully his ankle's all right. He'll be good. I really like Doug Baldwin. I think he's a lot better than people think. He just plays an offense that doesn't throw the ball a ton. But Baldwin is a great receiver in my opinion. Ted Ginn is kind of a flyer. He's one of those speedsters like Deshaun and Torrey Smith and those guys. If he might have a couple good games, but it's going to be very tough to play him on a weekly basis. Same with Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills is one of those speedster guys as well. I think he'll be a little better than he was last season with the quarterback change there in Miami, but one of those guys is going to be tough to play on a weekly basis. At tight end here, he's got Zach Ertz and Austin Hooper. I actually like both of those guys. Ertz is in a very good offense, same with Hooper. A lot of people think Hooper is a sleeper tight end, so we'll see how that works out for him there. I actually like both of those guys. Good picks there. And then we got the Panthers defense. There's kind of in the middle, in my opinion. Not great, but not horrible. And then Adam Vinatieri at kicker. Obviously, if Andrew Luck's not there, Colts aren't scoring any points. If Andrew Luck's there, he should be fine. He is extremely old, so I just wonder if he'll be able to hold up. And then the last team we have here is David's team. And then his team is Dak Prescott at quarterback. It's his only quarterback. I mean, obviously Dak is the quarterback on the Cowboys. He was the number 6 quarterback in fantasy last year. I'm not a big fan of him in fantasy. I like him in real life, but I'm not a huge fan of that pick there. Running backs, he's got Ingram. He's got Terrence West. And Matt Forte and Chris Thompson. Ingram, he's obviously competing with Adrian Peterson. Every season, the New Orleans uses Ingram less and less, getting him less carries. So I expect that could be the case again this year. That's why I picked Peterson myself. So we'll see about that. Terrence West, he's the #1 running back in Baltimore, but he's going to be competing with Danny Woodhead for playing time and going back and forth. So just kind of a rough situation there. Matt Forte, the Jets are trying to trade him, so if he stays on the Jets, I don't really like him currently. Depending on where he gets traded, it could really boost his value, or it could keep him kind of the same, just kind of mediocre, rendered maybe even possibly useless at that point. Chris Thompson, he's just a third down pass catching back on the Redskins, nothing more. I mean, he's definitely behind P. Ryan and Rob Kelly. At receiver, he's got Julio Jones, T.Y. Hilton, Demaryius Thomas, Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, Corey Davis, and Robert Woods. Julio Jones, flat-out stud, great player. T.Y. Hilton is also a very good player, but if Andrew Luck's not there, he's still going to get targets from the backup, Tolzien, but it really hurts his value there. Demaryius Thomas is a very good receiver. Just doesn't have the best quarterback, but he gets 1,000 yards receiving every year, so he should be definitely a solid option there for you. Sammy Watkins is on a new team this year. He's on the Rams. Got Jared Goff as his quarterback. Watkins has trouble staying healthy. Goff's not a great quarterback, just not really fond of that there. Randall Cobb on the Packers. He's been very good in the past, but he hasn't really been much the past couple seasons. He's definitely the third target in the passing game behind Adams and Nelson, so we'll see if that pick can work out for him there. Corey Davis, the rookie on Tennessee, I definitely think he's behind the top 3 passing targets there, behind Walker, Rashard Matthews, and Eric Decker, so I don't expect anything out of him this year. And then Robert Woods, he's on the Rams as well. Just not a very good offense in my opinion. He's obviously behind Watkins and maybe even Tavon Austin possibly. I'm not really. I know they got the rookie Cooper Kupp there that they're big on and people like. So not really sure how many targets he's going to get. Tight end here we got Greg Olsen, very good tight end, very solid. Likely going to be a top 5 tight end. No issues with that pick there. Should still be pretty good there. And then wrap it up. He's got Texans defense and Dustin Hopkins at kicker. I like the Texans defense. I think they're a very good defense. Obviously, hopefully, a lot of their guys can stay healthy. That's been a problem for them in the past. And then Dustin Hopkins at kicker for the Redskins. Like the Redskins offense, they should be able to move the ball up and down the field. So it should be a decent pick up there. So that wraps it up for the preseason rankings. I apologize for this being so long. I didn't think it would be, but I definitely want to evaluate everybody's team and kind of, start the season off with a bang. Obviously, you guys know we'll have these videos every week. Usually Wednesday nights I'll post them out, reviewing all the weekly matchups and, letting you guys know what I think, who did well, who didn't do well. I'll update rankings every week. And hopefully you guys enjoy the season. You guys have fun and, best of luck to everybody. Thanks.